Good evening. I'm Britt Bird, Senior Planner for Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso.
And I am Tal Litwin, Planning and Policy Analyst for Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso.
This uniform land use review procedure public hearing is being conducted from the Brooklyn Borough Hall courtroom on Wednesday, August 20th, 2025. Please note that this hearing is being streamed via WebEx and recorded to comply with the Open Meetings Law. The video will later be posted on the Brooklyn Borough Presidents YouTube channel. We have 3 items on the agenda this evening. Please note that the 4th item that was originally noticed on the public notice has been moved to a future hearing once it is certified at the City Planning Commission. Following each applicant's presentation and any questions from the chair, members of the public who are in attendance tonight will be invited to testify on the applications. All comments are limited to 2 minutes. While this meeting is being live streamed, we do not accept virtual testimony. Members of the public may also submit comments to testimony@brooklynbp.nyc.gov for the borough president's consideration until Friday, August 22nd, 2025. We are going to slightly amend the order of the agenda tonight, so I will ask that we please call the 2nd item on the agenda.
Calendar item number 2, AIM-UP follow-up action. A zoning text amendment by the Department of City Planning, DCP, to the Special Atlantic Avenue Mixed-Use District to limit a portion of mid-block non-residential use incentive in M1-2A/R6A areas to light industrial and certain community facility and commercial uses within Community District 8, Brooklyn. Please state your name and present this application.
Is this working?
One moment. We got our guy coming.
Okay, there we go. All right. My name's Jordan Fraud. I'm a senior borough planner at the Department of City Planning Brooklyn office and the liaison for Community Districts 8 and 9. I'm joined by Alex Summer, who's the director of the Brooklyn office, and we are here to present a follow-up action for the Atlantic Avenue Mixed-Use Plan, or AIM-UP, that was created in direct response to top priorities from City Council and Community Board 8. This action was referred out by the City Planning Commission for a 60-day period of review and feedback on June 30th. And tonight we'll give an overview of the proposal and answer any questions people have. Next. As a brief refresher, AIM-UP is a neighborhood plan that was recently approved by the City Council at the end of May to support housing and job growth, especially affordable housing, while improving streets, parks, and other infrastructure. In total, AIM-UP is projected to create 4,600 new homes, including 1,900 permanently affordable homes, and around 2,800 jobs, or 800,000 square feet of new space for jobs, accompanied with approximately $235 million in capital and programmatic investments, which the department is excited to share as an update from our work with City Council and City Hall. These include improvements to streets and parks and funding for workforce development training and legal services for tenants. Next slide. AIM-UP included 3 types of land use actions. First, zoning map changes to all housing and a mix of uses. Second, zoning text changes to apply mandatory inclusionary housing and establish a special district that adjusted underlying zoning rules to achieve certain goals around mixing uses and improving the streetscape. And third, site-specific actions to facilitate 100% income-restricted housing on city and nonprofit-owned land. Those sites are highlighted here in yellow. Again, this was given final approval by the City Council on May 28th, and the new zoning is in place. Next. As part of the approved zoning map changes, the mid-blocks along Pacific, Dean, and Bergen Streets, roughly between Grand Avenue and Franklin Avenue, were mapped with a pairing of M12A and R6A zoning districts. We call this the mid-block mixed-use area, and it roughly covers, as I said, the area south of Atlantic Avenue between Grand Avenue on the west and Franklin Avenue on the east. Those areas are highlighted on this map in a dashed red line. Next. In this geography, the new zoning allows up to 3.9 FAR for residential uses and 3 FAR for commercial, community facility, and light industrial uses. However, in an effort to encourage mixed-use buildings and space for jobs, the special district allows a special 1.1 FAR incentive for all types of non-residential uses in mixed-use buildings, allowing a total of 5 FAR. The graphic on the bottom helps to visualize each of these scenarios. Next. When voting to approve AMUP this past winter, Community Board 8 added a condition to modify a portion of the mid-block incentive to incentivize a more narrow set of light industrial and community facility uses. Based on this feedback from the Community Board and City Council, as well as internal discussions, DCP has agreed to advance a text amendment to the special district that would match this recommendation. Specifically, the text amendment would limit 0.5 FAR of the 1.1 FAR in the mid-block areas to only the uses shown above, while exempting small sites of less than 10,000 square feet, which would have difficulty physically accommodating multiple uses on the ground floor and subdividing spaces. To summarize the list of incentivized uses, the community facility uses here would include libraries, museums, community centers, non-commercial art galleries, and nonprofit spaces. The commercial and industrial uses being incentivized include a referenced set created under the City of Yes for Economic Opportunity text amendment. It covers repair, maintenance, art-based, and light industrial uses. For those familiar with the Gowanus Special District, the uses being incentivized here mirror the Gowanus mix. Next. As far as timeline and next steps, this text amendment was referred on June 30th, and we're currently in the 60-day joint review period by Community Board 8 and the Borough President. Last week, DCP presented to the Community Board, and we're here tonight. Subsequent reviews will be held by the City Planning Commission and the City Council with an anticipated approval by mid to late fall. Thank you for your time, and we're happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you. Just a few questions. How does this follow-up action align with the Community Board's vision for this neighborhood plan dating back to its time as the M-Crown proposal?
Yep. The idea of using bonus FAR to incentivize specifically light industrial uses as opposed to a general incentive for non-residential development dates back to the original M-Crown proposal that was put forward by Community Board 8 in 2017 or 2018. The draft zoning for AMUP was released a couple of years ago, and over the last 2 years, we got frequent feedback from the Community Board and other local stakeholders that they wanted to maintain this specific incentive for the mix of uses that mirror what's incentivized in the Gowanus mix. They wanted a specific incentive for light industrial and community facility as opposed to a general commercial incentive that would include, retail or office. That recommendation was formalized in the list of conditions the Community Board 8 placed on their approval of AMUP in December of 2024. And this follow-up action basically codifies their request for a 0.5 FAR set aside for the specified uses.
Great, thank you. And since we have concurrent review with the Community Board for this item, can you elaborate more on your presentation to the Community Board and any comments, questions, or concerns the Community Board may have discussed?
Sure. So my colleague Jonah Rogoff presented to the Community Board last week. I think the presentation that was given to them was very similar to this one. They voted, I believe, unanimously in favor of the proposal, which makes sense because in large part we are doing this in response to the priorities that they set. The issues that they raised, I think, had to do with the 10,000 square foot minimum lot size. We are proposing that this specific incentive for light industrial and community facility uses would only kick in on lots larger than 10,000 square feet. And some people on the Community Board would have liked this incentive to apply to every lot in the zoning district. Our feeling is that due to the smaller size of some of the lots in this area, it would be physically difficult to accommodate multiple different types of non-residential uses on the ground floor. I think, Alex, you were there, but I think that was the main policy concern that some members of the Community Board raised. I don't believe there was anything else, but correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, great.
Great, thank you. And in the Gowanus mix, in Gowanus, is there also a 10,000 foot floor area limit there as well?
There is not, in large part because the lots in Gowanus tend to all be larger than 10,000 square feet anyway. It's an area with much larger lots. The lots tend to face directly onto the waterfront. In the Atlantic Avenue area, in contrast, many of the lots tend to be smaller and narrower. And so when the Gowanus incentive was created, like I said, the lots tend to be larger and facing the waterfront, and so you don't have the same sorts of physical limitations.
Got it. Thank you. Will there be any streetscape requirements for the proposed industrial floor area requirement?
So no new streetscape requirements are included as part of this follow-up action. The only thing that this does is tweak the non-residential FAR incentive to incentivize 0.5 FAR of the identified, the identified light industrial and community facility uses. However, thanks to the streetscape regulations that were created last year through zoning for economic opportunity, all of the blocks subject to this follow-up action are already classified as Tier B streetscapes, which means they are subject to certain requirements that ensure an active street wall and pedestrian-friendly design. In addition, the passage of AMUP included $235 million in capital and programmatic investments. And a big part of that will entail a study of Atlantic Avenue and other streets in the area. So streetscape improvements to the entire AMUP area will be proposed and implemented in the coming years. And that's a big part of the package of public improvements that went along with the original AMUP proposal, but there's nothing specifically in this text amendment that relates to streetscape conditions.
Got it. Thank you. This panel is now excused. We will now call for testimony on this application from members of the public in attendance tonight. Please note that all comments are limited to 2 minutes. Okay, there's no one signed up currently. Just checking if anyone else wishes to submit public comment. You can sign up at the sheets outside. Hearing no further comment on this item is now closed. Is our first item present? Yes, great. Okay, please call calendar item number 1.
Calendar item number 1, Brooklyn CD5 Walk to a Park Site Selection / Acquisition. The Department of Parks and Recreation, along with co-applicant the Department of Citywide Administrative Services, seeks approval for the acquisition and site selection of privately owned properties for future park development to close the Walk to a Park gap in Brooklyn Community District 5.
Applicant team can please present at the podium, and please state your name and present the application. Thank you.
My name is Colleen Alderson. I'm the Chief of Parklands and Real Estate for the New York City Parks Department. I'm happy to be here and speak to this application before you. I realize I have short time, so I'm going to go through quickly. My colleague should be coming in a few minutes, but I'll do what I can to get through this. This is not working. Oh, okay. So just quickly, and the intention is just to walk through an introduction for this effort, a little bit about project background, the project overview, and our next steps. So the ULURP application was announced. Parks Department is the applicant, DCAS is the co-applicant. This is for site selection and acquisition action. Project background. At the Parks Department, we view parks as critical infrastructure. They provide so many benefits to New York City residents. They are areas for rest, for play. They create environmental benefits. Also, in light of climate change, they act as sponges. They create spaces to preserve and enhance the tree canopy in the city. and they provide mental and physical benefits to all New York City residents. So they're very important as part of the fabric of communities. There are many plans and policies that speak to this. There is the One NYC, Plan NYC efforts. A few years ago, the City Parks Department created a framework all about equitable parks. And in 2022, there was the Get Stuff Built report that was issued looking for efficiencies in the ULURP land use review process and called for the Parks Department to look at areas of need and craft an application on need. As part of the New York City Parks Vital Parks program, hopefully you've heard of this, but this is a very transparent effort to understand the resources that exist in communities and where resources might be lacking in areas. And it's all about looking across the city at that. There's a mapping tool that allows you to look at each individual area and see how your area shapes up. So it's a really important tool, and we aim to, again, equity and target underserved communities. We have many efforts trying to create parks in underserved areas. Our Walk to Park initiative. The idea is that every New York City resident should be in walking distance to a community open space. And that is the metric by which we use and prioritize projects. Other efforts that we have used to quote unquote close the gap. We do look at schoolyards throughout the city to open up as many schoolyards as we can. There are many that are jointly operated playgrounds, the Schoolyards to Playgrounds program. Many still are not open, but we've gotten many opened up. We also have recently, in the past few years, partnered with NYCHA to partner on some of their edge open space areas targeting underserved areas. So we're improving their spaces. They're being opened up for community members. And so it's a win-win. That being said, we still have challenges in meeting the goal of creating that a park within ready access to all New York City residents. And the way that the city acquires property, it's very difficult. There's limited vacant property. Property owners are not aware of where we're interested in pursuing new acquisitions. And the timeline is lengthy. It can be upwards of 2 years to get through ULURP, and property owners don't generally want to wait that long before being made and offered by the city. So our approach here is to get the ULURP in hand so that we're ready when there is a willing seller. So again, just the Get Stuff Built report called for us to look at the underserved areas and create a neighborhood scale application to target the underserved areas. We feel like with the ULURP approval in hand, we can more readily work with property owners that are interested in selling and move towards an acquisition. So right now, in terms of the Walk to Park goal, we're currently at 84.2%. There is a goal of 85% by 2030, so we're not too far away from that. But that being said, that still means that there's 1.4 million New Yorkers that are not within walking distance to an open space. And this is very important because if you're not in a ready walking distance, you're probably not going to get all the benefits that I spoke about earlier. So it's really important. There's lots of gaps across the city. And here we are talking about Community Board 5 in Brooklyn. And looking at the metrics for how we determine what are the most underserved areas, we looked at the density of population that is underserved. We looked at the open space ratio, so the amount of open space per 1,000 residents, and we also looked at the poverty rate for a given community district. And the community district, in working with city planning, was deemed the best way to approach this application at that scale. So this is a citywide map showing the community districts that hit that target, and Community Board 5 is highlighted in green. This is just a snapshot for Brooklyn Community Board 5, very densely populated area. There's almost 28,000 people unserved by our metric. The open space ratio is quite robust, 3.15, so above the 1.3, but the poverty rate is quite high in this community board. So just some background on, there's a lot of housing, a lot of development happening in this board. And we're trying to boost the open space resources for the existing residents and those to come. This is just a map showing the district and the council member, 2 council members. And this is just a note that there are many community gardens and schoolyards in this district. These are quite valuable spaces, especially community gardens. They're basically stewarded by community members as volunteers, jointly operated playgrounds, making use of the city assets, making them available for the community outside of school hours. But they do have limited hours, and there's many across this district. So we're really looking for those to add more neighborhood parks that are open day in, day out, 7 days a week, typical park hours. In terms of deciding which kind of properties to include in this application, we have primary and secondary sites. Primary sites are vacant sites tagged in the city's Pluto database. We're looking for sites that are at least 5,000 square feet because we feel like that can make the minimum level to create a local neighborhood park. And we also check these sites through site visits. And we also are checking to make sure that they are not pursuing other plans. There's no active DOB permits. This is an example of a site in Community Board 5. And this is a map showing the primary sites across the district. The pink is the gap areas. These are some examples of photos of some of the primary sites. One site along Sheffield, one along Atkins. And if you probably understanding that there's not a lot of vacant sites out there, so we worked creatively to come up with our secondary criteria, which we broadened the parameters a bit. So we're looking at different land use codes in the city's database. So we are looking at developed properties, but we, again, looking at minimum 5,000 square feet. But in our analysis, these properties are underbuilt, 50% below what they would be permitted to be built. The idea being is that maybe the property owner is interested in realizing another purpose for its property. Maybe they might be interested in selling their property. The thing about the secondary criteria is they have to fill a walk gap. So whereas the primary might just help boost the open space ratio, the secondary sites had to close a walk gap in the borough, in the community board. This is a map showing the secondary sites. So you can see that they are located very near proximity or inside of those pink areas, which are the gap areas in the district. Some photos. So because these are a little different, this is on Georgia Avenue, Fulton. And so the total sites that are part of this application, there's 23, 7 primary, 16 in that secondary criteria. And just to provide some clarity, we don't believe that all of these sites will have willing sellers and the city will move forward with acquiring them. It depends on, what the property owners are interested in doing with their property. So although there are 23 sites, we don't believe that we will be acquiring all 23 of these sites. And then one last note about the application and working with city planning is that there is a built-in sunset clause. So the acquisition authority for the Parks Department to acquire sites specifically for park purposes, after 10 years, we will not have that approval. We either have to, we could refresh the application, pursue it again, or do some other, craft it a little bit differently. But 10 years, the approval would sunset. So that is built in. And just one other note, if a property changes from those primary and secondary criteria, they would not meet the parameters for approval. So if they don't meet the criteria as specified, we would not be allowed to acquire them. And this is just a snapshot of what happens post ULURP. Should there be a willing seller, there's various steps that we have to go through in order to make an offer to a property owner. So first, we have to, hear from a property owner. We have to get budget approval signed off by OMB, and then that allows DCAS to take action to negotiate with the property owner and facilitate it to a closing. So there's a few steps after ULURP. So we're trying to get that ULURP approval in hand so we can proceed to this end, should there be a willing seller. That's all I have.
Thank you for your presentation. Just a few questions. Considering the prevalence of manufacturing zoned land and adjacent industrial business zones in the area, does Parks have any experience acquiring and or converting the smaller former manufacturing parcels into parkland?
We have over 30,000 acres across the city, and we have many different histories of our property, small and large, with all kinds of past uses, old concrete plants, gas stations, all kinds of properties. They are more complex, but we do have experience. And just to provide clarity, before the city acquires property, we're required to do our due diligence and understand the conditions of a property. When we purchase property, we have to understand the conditions. And so that's required. And then as part of a capital project, if we did acquire property, we would have to incorporate the necessary remediation that would be required to make sure it's safe, not only for the construction workers, but also the future park users and the park workers. So there's a lot of parameters that we have to meet. And I'll just say that we have vast history for all kinds of properties, residential to manufacturing, small and large.
Thank you. And for the secondary site analysis, does that analysis and assessment include any sort of assessment of the potential for manufacturing zoned parcels to be further developed or improved for industrial uses?
When we met with the land use staff of the borough president a few months ago, the IBZ sites across the district was pointed out because those sites are very important to maintain that base. I will say we removed actually 3 sites from our inventory because of that. We went and looked at them again. We did retain one it's a corner site. And on the other corners, there are residential uses. So we thought we left that one in, but we did remove other sites in light of the concern about preserving that manufacturing base and policies that are afforded by the IBZ.
Great. Thank you so much. This panel is now excused.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. We will now call for testimony on this application. From members of the public in attendance tonight. Please note that all comments are limited to 2 minutes. All right, we have no signups for this item. So hearing no further comments, we will now please call the third item.
Calendar item number 3, Herkimer Williams rezoning. Broadway Junction Partners LLC is requesting actions to facilitate 1.23 million square feet of new development, rezoning from M12 to C64 M16, large-scale general development, special permits for bulk, height, envelope modifications, and to move floor area special permit to allow certain use groups, text amendment to map MIH and modify LSGD ownership definition requirements, and combination acquisition and site selection by the city with co-applicants EDC and DCAS located in Community District 5. Please state your name and present the application.
Good evening. Thank you to the Borough President and his team for having us here today. My name is Vivian Liao, and I'm one of the principals of Totem. I'm joined by our project manager, Liz Canella, along with a number of folks on our broader project team and some of our community partners in the room as well. Oops. Let's see. There we go. In the interest of keeping our presentation brief, I'm not going to take up a ton of time introducing our company, except to say that our approach to development is one that centers community to help maximize benefits to the neighborhoods where we work. And the Herkimer Williams project is a prime example of this and our efforts over the past 5 years to engage with local stakeholders to create a proposal truly reflective of community desires. Herkimer Williams, oops. Why am I going backwards? There we go. There we go. Herkimer Williams is also unique in its scope and scale. This is truly a generational project that has the potential to turn what is currently dirt storage and parking lots into affordable housing, new open space, a potential branch of CUNY, space for new jobs and employers, while also preserving industrial jobs and providing growth opportunities for local businesses. These benefits would complement more than $500 million of public investment that is currently underway in what is one of our city's major transportation hubs at Broadway Junction, a prime area for transit-oriented development. It's also truly a junction point, bringing together 7 communities that are deserving of vital resources. And as the findings of our racial equity report show, the need for affordable housing in the area, especially at low income levels, is particularly acute. Our project targets housing creation at AMI levels that meet where the majority of East New York residents are today, which you could see highlighted in the red there. This slide shows the proposed rezoning area in more detail. You can see the footprint of our project in the middle in pink there, which is right in the heart of all the investment that is currently underway. This slide shows the many reports and recommendations made over the years about what should happen in this critical junction, which we drew upon along with community feedback to develop the first proposal that we submitted to start the environmental review process. Since that scoping hearing was held nearly 2 years ago, we have worked closely with the local community board, dozens of community organizations, residents, and stakeholders to incorporate their feedback further. This slide summarizes that feedback on the left and also gives an emblematic list of some of the groups we have engaged with on a continuous basis throughout the process. And this slide reflects the result of all of that, a ULURP proposal that directly reflects communities' desires and would create over the next decade up to 1,000 units of affordable housing, new commercial and industrial space, new retail space at a variety of footprints to allow for small local businesses as well as destination retail, new community facility space, including an option to CUNY to anchor up to 85,000 square feet, new open space equivalent to the size of 5 NBA basketball courts, and as underscores our approach in all our developments, local hiring and MWB commitments to ensure that our community benefits from the economic opportunity that is being created here. I'm going to hand it off now to Liz to walk through some of the programmatic elements in more detail.
Thanks, Viv. Hi, folks. So we'll dive right in. So we're committed to maximizing affordable housing that meets East New York needs. And the community board has expressed the deeply affordable housing is the deepest need. So we've been in discussion with HPD on utilizing their extremely low and low income affordable program, so the ELA program, to bring over 230 units of affordable housing in the first phase of construction. So that's essentially the building marked B on the right-hand side of the screen. So AMIs can be a little difficult to understand. So what that essentially means is a single person working a full-time minimum wage job could qualify for 30% AMI studio apartment. And on the other hand, a family of 2 parents who are an entry-level teacher and a construction laborer with 1 child, would qualify for an 80% AMI 2-bedroom unit. So to help residents afford to live in this neighborhood and remain in this neighborhood, we'll continue to maximize the affordable housing for the subsequent phases, so the rest of the buildings of development, using a mix of city and state subsidy programs. And we obviously welcome any suggestions from the borough president on ideal programs to strive for. Although the first phase is centered in mostly housing, it was important for us to also ground the first phase with jobs and business opportunity in mind. So that's why we been actively working with 3 community-based organizations, all their logos are up there, to establish the East New York Green Economy Institute. So the Green Economy Institute is envisioned as a space designed to support job seekers as well as small industrial businesses on their growth trajectory. With low-cost workspace, wraparound business support, and a creation of local talent pipeline, the Institute will not only help the businesses located at Herkimer Williams, but also strengthen the existing area businesses that make up the industrial business zone immediately south of the project for a more dynamic future. The third phase, so that's building D on this slide, on the left-hand side, would be home to both housing and space dedicated to CUNY or another higher education programming user. We have worked really hard at the community's request to engage with CUNY in this effort, and we've offered them a free option to take up about 85,000 square feet, which you can see here. They've stated that they would consider this as part of their expansion efforts. That's a letter on the right-hand side. In addition to higher education, we're also exploring other uses that could be housed, such as ambulatory care and other workforce training partnerships. Pending the final makeup of the tenants for the community facility space in this building, Building D, the building has a potential to contribute up to 120 units of additional housing. The last phase, so that is Building E, would contribute about 440,000 square feet of commercial space, in addition to 100,000 square feet of light industrial space. We've already heard interest from a recording studio, and as well as some users that are currently on the space, in the footprint on expansion plans. Knitting all of the buildings together will be an active ground floor retail experience. We've gotten a lot of feedback from the community and wanting to envision floor plates that span anywhere from 500 square feet to 1,000 square feet for neighborhood scale retailers to up to 40,000 square feet for destination retailers. So imagine local businesses like Brooklyn Blends and Fusion East that want to expand, as well as like family entertainment options like a Dave & Buster's, a Chuck E. Cheese, maybe a movie theater. So enhancing that ground floor experience will be a network of open space improvements that create a more welcoming experience for pedestrians on Van Sinderen, on Herkimer, on Fulton. About 25,000 square feet that will complement the newly minted Callahan Kelly playground across the street, as well as the updated Broadway Junction train station. The latter accessibility upgrades to Broadway Junction have come after many years of community advocacy, and we've heard loud and clear that any development at Herkimer Williams should be well coordinated with all of these improvements. And the timeline here at the bottom shows essentially that our first building slated to break ground would be following the completion of the MTA ADA work. In sum, the proposal we have outlined here is a result of years of community conversations and a direct reflection of the community's stated desires and concerns, which you can see here sort of in a point-by-point basis on how the project has transformed over the years. In order to actualize this program, these are the following land use actions here before the Borough President going through ULURP. And as you know, the project certified on June 2nd, and so we're in the beginning half of the ULURP schedule. And before we answer questions, I just wanted to flag for everyone here and those listening on WebEx that we are still listening, and we have an active survey on our website. You can see it on the slide here. We're continuing to collect feedback. Would welcome any more additional feedback from folks. And from there, I'll open it up for questions.
Thank you for your presentation. So you mentioned already potential development alternatives for the proposed higher education campus. Can you elaborate a little bit more on these potential alternatives and the size of the footprint? You mentioned they could make room for up to 120 more units. How much smaller would the commercial or community facility footprint be in that scenario? Is that the only scenario you've considered, or are there a variety of them?
Yeah, so I mean, as we mentioned during the presentation, CUNY is sort of the overwhelming priority, and which is why we work very hard to engage with them on this process. That said, we understand they may not be in a position to take the full 85,000 square feet. So we have been actively exploring other potential community facility type amenities that could create a very vibrant mix in this building. Many of them are also stated stakeholder priorities, such as ambulatory care facilities, cultural type centers, job training providers, et cetera. So depending on how that mix plays out, yes, it's, you know, the range of what the community facility will be will dictate the number of residential units in there, but it is a range of 263 residential units at the low end up to 384 units at the upper end, depending on the size of the community facility space.
Great, thank you. How would the planned light industrial space align with nearby industrial development in the East New York IBZ? And has the applicant team engaged with local industrial business development partners to discuss the local industrial economy?
So we've been very aware that our project is adjacent to the East New York IBZ to the south of us. So we've been intentional since the beginning of the process, really, to look for ways to help strengthen linkages between the IBZ and the future businesses that would locate at Herkimer Williams. So over the past few years, we've been engaged actively with the Bach Network, which administers the East New York and the Flatlands and Fairfields IBZ, as well as the LDC of East New York, which manages the nearby East Brooklyn bid. First, to really understand the areas of opportunity for strengthening local industrial businesses in the IBZ. Key priorities we heard were the need for low-cost office and flex space that could be complementary to spaces in the IBZ, the need for strengthening the job pipeline so that industrial businesses can grow, and the need to build the capacity of local industrial businesses to compete in growth sectors like the green economy, green construction, trades, et cetera. So to address these and to begin to lay the foundation for the future industrial space that will come online in the later phases, we've collaborated, as Liz mentioned, with a number of different community-based organizations to create the Green Economy Institute. And the thinking is that we will be laying a foundation in the early phases of our project to really create the conditions for both new industrial businesses to start and then grow into the IBZ, as well as to generate demand for additional industrial space that will come online by the project's final phase.
Great, thank you. And on your slide about summarizing community feedback, curious for the mention of affordable housing. Has affordable homeownership opportunities been mentioned as part of that conversation?
Yes, thank you for that question. So yes, affordable housing, affordable homeownership has come up in that conversation. I think we're agnostic to sort of what housing programs are present at Herkimer Williams. I will say sort of the footprints of the larger, like buildings B through E, well, buildings B through D who have residential don't really lend themselves to an affordable housing program that exists right now. But we're open and willing to see if there's something that we can work out, obviously. But that's been sort of the feedback we've gotten so far.
Great, thank you. And then is there anything you'd like to elaborate on the presentation of the community board and how discussions and the recommendation has been shaping up?
Honestly, we're still waiting for the conditions from the land use committee voted at the last meeting, and we are still waiting for those conditions.
Thank you.
Yeah, but we do have another hearing scheduled, I believe, for the full board. So I don't want to speak for them.
Sure. Thank you. And final question, is there any update on potential agreements with labor on the construction project? Any information about which buildings, parcels, or potential wage agreements?
Yep. So there's a couple things we're balancing here, but because of 100% affordable housing buildings have certain requirements, but we are actively working with the laborers who are in the room and 32BJ to be represented on that project.
Great. Thank you for your presentation. This panel is now excused. We will now call for testimony on this application from members of the public in attendance tonight. Please note that all comments are limited to 2 minutes.
Maurice Cunningham.
Good evening. My name is Maurice Cunningham. All my life, I lived in Brownsville, East New York, all my life. I am a apprentice of Local 79. I'm speaking in support of the Herkimer Williams project at Borough Junction. I live close to this project, and I think it will improve the neighborhood. When I got into the union, my first job was 100% affordable housing in Brownsville. As a union worker, I get paid a fair wage for every hour I work. I get health care from me and my daughter and money towards my retirement. Creating jobs at $40 an hour in Brownsville will benefit those who need it because the cost in the city is too high. Good jobs bring down crime in my community. My community needs just wage and affordable housing. We need to move forward with this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Edgar Simpson.
Good evening. Just thank God for being here. And if I pronounce it wrong, Herkimer, like whatever been said here tonight, I grew up in Manhattan where so much crime and things take place because you don't feel the compassion like anyone cared for you. So to see that they're going out there and trying to build a community, give us a chance, many of us that grew up in broken homes without a father or someone to lead the way for us to have you stand and show by example what life can bring forward to you when you have an opportunity is an excellent thing. And I know that that itself will help bring crime down and give many of our young youth who are so disconnected from us hope to see a better future.
Thank you.
Derek Jones.
Good evening. I'm for the program. My name is Derek from Bedford-Stuyvesant. I live in East New York now. I really want this to go forward because of the community, as other brothers were saying, because it's 100% affordable, something that we don't have in our neighborhoods a lot of times. There's some things that a lot of these other builders try to take from us as a community. So I love, I want to be able to actually go here, work here, make a union, because obviously I represent the union. So for my son, for my family. So, I just want to go ahead with the program and go forward with this also. Thank you.
Thank you.
T. Williams.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm a Local 79 organizer, but I'm also a member of the community, so I'm going to speak on behalf of both the union members, myself, and people that in the surrounding area. If you go to that area, it's very, I want to say, weary. Like, we need to pick up that area because it's very hard to travel around there. It's very scary with you and your children. I feel like this project will create a safer place for people to travel with their children. There's a lot of shelters around there with men, women, and children that they cannot transition out of those shelters because they have no place to go. This project offers different opportunities for different people at different percentages of AMIs, which is very beneficial to me because I was a Section 8 kid, and it was only till I met somebody in the same area as me that made more money than me, that taught me a way how to get more money and how to be able to get not just more money, but good paying jobs and wages for me and my 2 children. I'm actually trying to have another one because I make, a good enough money and have benefits for my children. But I know so many people that are in the shelters surrounding them. My best friend was in a shelter. Her mom was in a shelter. And I know a couple of other people that don't have anywhere to transition to. And Herkimer Williams Project will give them that opportunity. Now, speaking on behalf of the members, we have many members in that area. And we have a lot of work throughout the city to where when we create projects like this, Local 79 has created a wage floor for specifically residential, so we can have our residential and affordable housing partners be able to create on a budget, which is very beneficial to people that have never made over minimum wage and never had healthcare, dental, pensions, annuity. It gives the opportunity for those people to get in, and it opens doors for people that never seen these type of doors open. So I hope we can come together with Community Board 5 to push through this project, and I hope that we come to like some type of middle ground here soon enough. Although Community Board 5 has done their civic duty, and I hope that we can further this project and possibly talk about how this can benefit Community Board 5 because the area and the surrounding places is suffering. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble reading it. Bow? First, that's the start of the last name is B-O-W? Thank you. Yes.
Always thought I had a clear handwriting. Good evening, everybody. My name is Reginald Bowman, and I'm a resident of Ceflo Houses and chairman of the Brooklyn East District Council of NYCHA, which represents more than 25,000 families in public housing in Board 16, Board 5, and Places East. As a leader in this community, and I have to put my glasses on.
No worries.
As a leader in my community, I've seen all the improvements going on at Broadway Junction, and I want to make sure that the residents of public housing in particular, and the residents of this community are able to be a part of all of the opportunities that are being created by this project with the Totem developers. That is why last summer, I invited the development team at Totem to a luncheon of East Brooklyn resident leaders to present on the Herkimer Williams project. Their plans to create new affordable housing, commercial space, and open space are exactly what is needed in this community and has been needed in this community for many years, and as was adequately pointed out by the previous speaker. Since then, the Totem team has engaged with our resident leaders on a regular basis. And I might add that it's been a unique experience because a lot of developers that come into our community do not meet with the public housing community as part of the development process. And that's been a welcome, refreshing thing from Totem. As someone who's lived in East New York for a long time, and I'm also a longtime Brooklynite, I was raised in Clinton Hill, not too far from here, I know how urgently we need more housing and good paying jobs that can help us thrive. And I look at the Herkimer Williams project as a win-win for our community because it's giving us not only an opportunity to participate in the process, but also an opportunity to be employed to build and develop the project. And I think this is something that this community and Brooklyn and the city itself needs to make sure that they use as an example when they're developing our communities. Totem has listened to our voices and updated the proposal to reflect our desire for affordable housing and economic opportunities. They've truly presented themselves as partners in this process, and it's something that I think needs to be appreciated as part of developing this part of the area. This is the type of investment that East New Yorkers need, Brownsville needs, and deserve. So I'm speaking today to support this project. And I urge you to support this impactful vision for Broadway Junction. And this certainly is a necessity and a necessary project for the people in the community that I represent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Diane Sanders.
Good evening. My name is Diane Sanders, and I've been a proud resident of East New York for more than 30 years. I've watched this neighborhood grow and change, not always in the ways that help people who live here. Too many longtime residents, especially seniors like myself, have been priced out of the community they lived in. They've helped to build in, and we need to change that. That's why I'm here today to support the Herkimer Williams project. This proposal brings something we've needed for a long time, deeply affordable housing that's built for the people who are already here. Totem has taken the time to listen to what the community really needs. Unlike other proposals that come and go without community input, this one reflects our voices. Herkimer Williams will bring 1,000 affordable apartments to East New York, giving more people a real chance to stay in their homes and in their community. And it includes 25,000 square feet of public open space to make our streets safer and more walkable, especially around Broadway Junction. I've walked by the vacant lots near Broadway Junction for years. It's time to put that space to good use and to build something that benefits all of us. This project represents hope for seniors, families, and future generations of New Yorkers. Thank you for hearing me, and I hope to support this new vision for our community. We really need it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Charmaine Myers.
Good evening. My name is Pastor Charmaine Bird from the Greater Mount Carmel Cathedral and Worship Center on Fulton Street. As a faith leader and a longtime member of the Brooklyn community, I care deeply about the dignity and future of our neighbors. Our congregation sees firsthand the struggles families face every day, the pressures of rising rents, the lack of job opportunities, and the absence of safe, welcoming spaces for our children and elders. For decades, we watched the progress at Broadway Junction, always at a crossroads of potential. Promises have been made and broken, and yet our community has remained resilient. That's why I'm here to support the Herkimer Williams project, which represents not just a development, but a commitment to restoring what our community has long deserved: stability, opportunity, and most of all, hope. This project includes 1,000 units of affordable housing, a direct response to the housing insecurity that burdens so many of our families. As a community of faith, we believe that everyone deserves a safe, stable place to call home. It is the foundation upon which lives, families, and futures are built. Herkimer Williams also invests in opportunities, creating pathways to economic empowerment through local hiring, job training, and real support for neighborhood entrepreneurs. This allows residents to build not only their livelihoods, but their legacy. And beyond jobs and housing, this project reimagines the heart of our community, by transforming long neglected lots into open spaces where families can gather, children can play, and neighbors can connect. These are the spaces where community is nurtured and where peace and healing can take root. I believe this plan reflects the values we hold dear, including dignity, equity, and the call to serve others. I urge you to support the Herkimer Williams Project and help us build a future that truly honors the people of East New York. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Theo Perez.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Theo Perez, and I'm here today representing SEIU Local 32BJ. 32BJ is the largest union of property service workers in the country, representing over 175,000 members across 13 states, including thousands of members who work and live here in Brooklyn. At 32BJ, we support responsible developers who invest in the communities where they build, and I'm happy to report that the developers of this proposed project are on the path to a credible commitment to creating good jobs for the workers who will permanently staff these buildings. We estimate that between the residential and commercial components, this project could produce around 30 property service jobs. Good jobs like these mean prevailing wages, meaningful benefits, and a pathway to the middle class for the local community members who tend to fill them. Beyond just this, we need housing to be built in every neighborhood of New York City to ensure that working families are not displaced by dwindling supply and skyrocketing rents. This proposed development will include about 1,000 residential units, all of which will be permanently income restricted for low to middle income New Yorkers. As the cost of living rises and working New Yorkers struggle to stay in their homes, it's more important now than ever to create affordable housing and good jobs which uphold the industry standard in the city. For all these reasons, 32BJ is in strong support of the Herkimer Williams rezoning. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. All right, we have exhausted our list of signups. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this item? Yes, please come to the podium and state your name and any affiliation.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Bill Wilkins. I'm the Executive Director for the Local Development Corporation of East New York, also the East Brooklyn Business Improvement District. That's one of the first bids in New York City, the first industrial bid in New York City, and also the Executive Director for 2 housing development corporations, of which we have 700 units in our portfolio. Some would argue that I'm an expert in economic development and also in housing for managing programs on the city, state, and federal level. I've lived in East New York for over 35 years. I've worked 25 years, 4 blocks from this project site. And to be honest, landing at Broadway Junction, I always felt I made a wrong turn in my life. It's a hot mess. It's distressed. It's off the meter. I'm like, why me? But now I see it's come full circle, and the opportunity, as stated, with being in the development space is I've had an opportunity over the last 16 years to vet a lot of developers, and a lot of times they'll come to our community and tell us what they want to do. They don't ask us. They're not interested in any of what's void, what resources we need, what programs we need, and what we're interested in. But that's not the case with Totem. It's a true representation of bottom-up development. We started basically maybe 14 years ago. The Urban Land Institute spent a summer at the LDC of East New York because they wanted to do a study on Broadway Junction. That kind of started the ball rolling. All Totem has done is digest all of the studies, all of the charrettes, all of the visioning sessions, all of the recommendations from all of the stakeholders, aggressively went out and sought the advice, suggestions from not only residents, stakeholders, and businesses to try to create an urban oasis, to transform a transportation node that's in Brooklyn, and we only have 2 other transportation nodes that even have 5 or 6 train lines converge, and for it to have only 1 exit for egress is unacceptable. So this is our opportunity to change the narrative in East New York. So without hesitation, reservation, I support this project. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on this item? Hearing no further comment, this item is now closed. As I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the hearing, the 4th item on the agenda that was originally noticed, the Coney Island bid, has been postponed to a hearing at a future date once it is certified. With that, this ULURP public hearing is now closed. The Borough President will review these applications and submit his recommendation to the City Planning Commission, which will hold its hearing on these items at a later date. As a reminder, members of the public may submit comments to testimony@brooklynbp.nyc.gov for the Borough President's consideration until Friday, August 22nd, 2025. This meeting is now adjourned.